Have you ever heard of a man who defied an emperor and, facing the flames, found the strength to smile? Saint Lawrence, one of the most venerated martyrs of the Church, turned his martyrdom into an act of courage that marked the history of Christianity. When he was demanded to surrender the Church's treasures to Emperor Valerian, Lawrence did something that no one expected. Not only did he refuse, but he also revealed to the world what truly held value for the Christian faith. But what he did was so impressive that it's still remembered today. Do you want to know how Lawrence's response forever changed the Church's view of wealth and service? Then stay with us and discover this fascinating story of faith, sacrifice, and resilience. 1. Who was Saint Lawrence? Saint Lawrence is one of the most iconic saints in the history of Christianity, with his life marked by deep devotion and dedication to serving the needy. He was born around 225 AD in a small town in Spain, and from a young age he showed a generous heart and fervent faith. In pursuit of fulfilling his mission, he traveled to Rome, where he stood out as a deacon, assisting the Church during difficult times of persecution. His intelligence and compassion quickly caught the attention of leaders and believers, earning him a position of trust alongside Pope Sixtus II. During his time in Rome, Lawrence was responsible for one of the Church's noblest duties, managing its resources and distributing aid to the poorest. It was a time when many faced poverty and hunger, and he was known for distributing food, clothing, and care to the most vulnerable, such as orphans and widows. But what set Lawrence apart was how he saw the Church's mission. To him, treasures were not gold and silver, but the people in need of care and protection. This transformative vision reflected a faith that challenged the conventions of the time. Lawrence, in addition to managing the Church's resources, also inspired others to engage in charity and not fear the challenges that lay ahead. He believed that the true wealth of the Church was in the outstretched hands that received help and in the souls that found comfort in faith. His dedication and actions made him a role model for all Christians in Rome, strengthening the community during a period of intense persecutions and challenges. He embodied the spirit of service, always willing to put others' needs before his own. In the midst of this growing pressure against Christians, Lawrence witnessed the execution of many of his brothers in faith, including the death of his dear friend, Pope Sixtus II. Emperor Valerian, in an attempt to weaken the Church, believed that by eliminating religious leaders he could destroy the foundation of Christianity in Rome. But what he didn't expect was that, even faced with an uncertain and dark future, the spirit of men like Lawrence would remain unbroken. What many don't know is that in those darkest moments, Lawrence kept hope alive within the Christian community. He believed that martyrdom was a powerful witness of faith and a sign that God's justice would prevail, even in the face of oppression by the powerful. It was this unwavering confidence that kept him steadfast, even knowing that persecution would reach him sooner or later. His simple life, yet marked by great acts, paved the way for a conclusion that would be remembered for generations. And so, St. Lawrence became a symbol of hope and resilience for Christians in Rome. But his journey still held a direct confrontation with Emperor Valerian, one that would forever change the way the Church viewed its true treasures. Let's understand how Lawrence's courage in front of the emperor revealed a surprising truth and transformed the Church's destiny in Rome. 2. The encounter with the emperor. When Emperor Valerian decreed that all Christian leaders should be executed, he couldn't have imagined the resistance he would encounter in Lawrence. The emperor believed that by eliminating these influential figures, he could dismantle the Church in Rome, and at the same time seize the wealth it supposedly held. But Lawrence was much more than just an administrator of the Church's assets. He was a defender of charity and human dignity. It was this stance that drew Valerian's attention as he sought the riches accumulated by the Church to fund his empire. When summoned by the emperor, Lawrence was faced with a clear demand. He had to deliver all the Church's treasures. Valerian wanted valuable items, precious metals, and the donations that Christianity had accumulated over the years. But instead of yielding to the pressure, Lawrence saw an opportunity to bear witness to his faith in an unexpected way. He asked for 3 days to gather the treasures, and during those days he roamed Rome, summoning the poor, sick, and needy people he had helped daily. At the end of the deadline, a crowd gathered before the emperor. When Valerian, with an ambitious gaze, demanded that Lawrence present the treasures, the deacon's response surprised everyone. With a calmness that contrasted with the brutal environment, Lawrence pointed to that crowd of people and declared, "Your Majesty, here are the treasures of..." The faces of the poor and needy, who had been ignored by Roman power until then, were displayed as the true wealth of the Church. The challenge was clear. To Lawrence, the value of the church lay in its mission to care for those in need. Lawrence's audacity not only infuriated the emperor, but also left a lesson that resonates to this day. He showed that the church was not about gold and silver, but about love and compassion. This defiant attitude sealed his fate. Valerian, humiliated before his soldiers and the people, ordered Lawrence's immediate arrest. The decision to present the poor as the true treasures of the church would spark the deacon's martyrdom, but also ensured that his story would be remembered forever. What many fail to realize is that Lawrence's gesture was an act of resistance that went beyond his own survival. He knew that the emperor's attitude was based on a worldview where power and material were. Lawrence, on the other hand, believed that true faith should be a beacon for the marginalized and oppressed, showing that the kingdom of God was for everyone. His stance before Valerian became a symbol of resistance against oppression and a defense of the dignity of every human being. The encounter between the deacon and the emperor forever changed the social role of the church. Lawrence, with his courageous response, not only challenged the power of Rome, but also redefined the church's vision of charity and service. What happens next is one of the most remarkable stories of martyrdom and faith in all of Christian history, proving the unbreakable strength of a man who faced death with a smile. 3. The Martyrdom of St. Lawrence. After being imprisoned, Lawrence faced the darkness of Roman dungeons, awaiting his fate, which had already been decided by Emperor Valerian. The decision to present the poor as the church's treasures came at a great cost, but Lawrence remained firm. He knew that his martyrdom was inevitable, but he faced this moment with a serene faith, convinced that his death would further strengthen the message of love for others that he preached. Stories say that even in prison, he comforted other imprisoned Christians, encouraging them to keep hope alive despite the empire's threats. Valerian, enraged by the affront, decided that Lawrence would face one of the cruelest methods of execution of the time, being burned alive on a gridiron. It was a slow and painful death, a spectacle of terror meant to intimidate other Christians. Yet, even when faced with this fate, Lawrence did not falter. On his way to the place of execution, he held his head high, becoming an example of courage for all who watched. His calmness defied human logic. Instead of despair, he showed a tranquil confidence, as if he knew that this pain would be fleeting compared to eternity. When placed over the coals, Lawrence showed a spirit that transcends understanding. Christian tradition tells us that amidst the flames he is said to have remarked with a smile, "Turn me over, I'm done on this side." These words, seemingly irreverent, reveal the strength of his faith. For many, it was a moment that combined the tragic with the sublime, a man who, even in agony, found the strength to challenge his executioners with humor. This episode turned Lawrence into a symbol of resilience and made his martyrdom one of the church's most remembered stories. Behind this surprising attitude was a deep desire to show that faith in Christ was greater than any physical suffering. Lawrence believed that his death could be a seed for the growth of the church and faith, demonstrating that Christian love does not bow before violence. The image of the martyr on the grill became a powerful image of unshakable faith, echoing throughout Rome, even reaching those who had once seen Christians as enemies. His sacrifice proved that nothing could extinguish the flame of the gospel. From this martyrdom, the church in Rome gained new strength, with the faithful seeing in Lawrence an example to follow. Instead of intimidating, his execution generated a wave of admiration and conversions, something that Valerian himself could not have foreseen. The story of the deacon who smiled in the face of death inspired thousands to remain steadfast in their faith, even in times of persecution. His courage ensured that his name would be remembered far beyond the walls of Rome, and his testimony spread throughout the Christian world. And so, Lawrence became more than a martyr. He became a symbol of hope, someone who proved that the strength of faith can overcome even the most intense flames. But his story did not end there. Lawrence's legacy lives on, and he is celebrated today as an example of charity and bravery. What did the church preserve from his testimony over the centuries? How does his memory continue to inspire Christians in modern times? 4. The legacy of St. Lawrence. The death of St. Lawrence left a profound mark on the church and the entire Christian community in Rome. His sacrifice, far from being in vain, was seen as a testimony to the strength of faith in the face of Roman brutality. Shortly after his martyrdom, the memory of Lawrence was honored by Christians who considered him a true hero of the faith. It wasn't long before his story spread to regions around Rome, reaching the growing Christian communities who found in his life an example of courage and total surrender to God. One of the most notable symbols of his legacy is the Basilica of St. Lawrence outside the walls in Rome, built to house his relics and preserve the memory of his martyrdom. To this day, thousands of pilgrims visit the site, wishing to draw closer to the example of a man who saw the poor as the true treasures of the Church. The construction of the basilica was a gesture of respect and admiration by the Christians of the time, who wished to keep alive the memory of one who refused to abandon the needy, even when his own life was at stake. The date of his death, August 10th, is annually celebrated as a liturgical feast in honor of St. Lawrence. In many traditions, this day is known as the Night of St. Lawrence, a time marked by the phenomenon of shooting stars, which many associate with the coals that fell from the grill where the saint was martyred. This connection between heaven and earth, between the pain of martyrdom and the beauty of the cosmos, turned Lawrence's memory into a moment of reflection and faith for many Catholics around the world. It serves as a reminder that, like the stars, true faith shines brightly even in the darkest moments. In addition to being venerated as the patron saint of deacons, St. Lawrence is also considered the protector of cooks, a direct reference to the manner of his death. His name is invoked in various prayers and celebrations, especially by those seeking courage to face challenges and hardships. Lawrence's life not only inspired devotion, but also became a model of service to others. He showed that Christian love must be active and present, especially among those most in need. For those who wish to discover more inspiring stories like that of St. Lawrence, be sure to check out our ebook, 50 Saints, Stories and Prayers for Divine Intervention, which gathers the lives and prayers of saints who, like Lawrence, teach us to face adversity with faith. Available in our store, the ebook is a chance to deepen your knowledge of saints who changed the Church's history with their examples of love and perseverance. It's a great read for anyone seeking inspiration for their own spiritual journey. The legacy of St. Lawrence remains alive not only on altars, but also in the hearts of Christians who continue his mission of caring for the most in need. His story challenges us to reflect on what are the true treasures we hold in our lives and how we can, in our own way, serve others with the same dedication he demonstrated. And so, throughout the centuries, Lawrence continues to be a beacon of hope and charity, reminding us that God's love is the greatest treasure we can offer the world. The story of St. Lawrence is a powerful reminder that even in the most challenging times, faith and courage can transform moments of suffering into testimonies of hope. He showed us that the true treasures of the Church are not material riches, but rather the ability to serve the most needy and to keep the flame of love for one another alive. His example has transcended the centuries and continues to inspire thousands of believers to live out charity in a practical and authentic way. Lawrence's message resonates today as an invitation to all of us. May we see the poorest and most marginalized as the true wealth of our community. If you were inspired by St. Lawrence's story and want to learn more about other saints who faced adversity with unwavering faith, make sure to explore our content. And if you want to support this channel and help produce more videos like this one, consider becoming a member. By doing so, you'll gain access to exclusive content, deeper discussions, and you'll be helping us to share stories of faith that make a difference. Just click the join button and become part of our support community.